This story will cover from then to now and next, all about change, how to turn losers into winners. In the previous part 1, we explained that this is an update from 1996, following Ospreys and North Atlantic right whales up the east coast of the USA to Canada. Not new Blue Planet 2 more material, more archive, with the opportunity to see the changes along the way and what's now being done to help one of the rarest whales of all.
Get forward a little bit. Back to the right, back to the right.
Yes, y'all got to get that line, all right.
Okay, I'm in, go, go, go. I'm in, go. A little bit faster. All right, I'm right, we're right behind our flukes. We're grappled in to one of the lines, right there.
We're ready to deploy. We need to back down on it, okay?
Okay, there we go. It's clear on the, running clear on the?
Yep.
Okay, all right, yeah, let her go.
That's about all we can do.
Nice job, dude.
Nice work, guys.
Very close, but I wasn't going to take that.
Maybe possible.
Yeah, the angle was kind of...
Mark, get ready. Get ready.
And now back to the good old days. But were they? We'll see what changes have affected both our guides as we continue north.
Then there's the moon that drives the tides, that controls the lives of so many coastal creatures. The light of the lighthouse, some once fueled by whale oil, is replaced again by the sun, and the ruddy ducks settle down for a morning snooze. But a snooze it is not to be. Believe it or not, this is being done for the benefit of this marsh. Although it disturbs the inhabitants for a while, it does mean that their home is being assessed. Using a camera strapped to his chest, the pilot is mapping the vegetation below him. And so, briefly, the Osprey is joined by a gyrocopter, an unusual species flying for the cause of wetland management and wildlife conservation. Below the Osprey, the salt marsh looks in good shape. He sees the green shoots amongst the dead brown blanket of winter. Gulls in summer plumage are already in pairs. And then he spots another osprey. And then two more. They seem to be everywhere. There's early competition for these sort of nest sites, incidentally provided by the Coast Guard. He checks the sitting bird. It's time to nest, time to move on. Ospreys were not always common, as this classic film showed. It was made in 1984 by two newcomers, Michael Mayle and Judy Feith. They showed an osprey catching a pufferfish, which can expand like a balloon to escape the grip. And talking of grip, they even filmed this. The film was made along the coast to the east of New York, an area in which there had been plenty of ospreys in the past. Nests were well known and protected. No one seemed to be against them, but then in the 1950s, things started to go badly wrong. Eggs failed to hatch. Shells were too thin. They just broke under the confused parent. The cause turned out to be chemical sprays like DDT, something that's widely accepted now, but at the time was sensational. The stuff was right there, below the ospreys, in the fish we all eat. So it turned out that the osprey was the canary in the coal mine, a clue as to what was happening to the environment. They've been trapped, ringed, and their whole ecology studied in detail. In this area, in the past, there had been colonies of ospreys. And then, on the Connecticut River, their numbers were found to be falling by 30% a year. Since then, through further research and protection, the population has recovered. But it'll be a while before people can again write about colonies of 300 pairs. The osprey's ups and downs, measured by good research, created an important precedent for what's now called environmental law. Because ospreys eat the same fish as we do, and therefore accumulated the same poisons, some possibly cancer-forming, it was argued that the public could bring a suit in such cases, and eventually the poisons were banned. Everyone wanted an Osprey platform, even Jackie Onassis, even ospreys. They became the craze all along this coast between New York City and Boston. But that same coast, now reached by our migrating osprey and right whale, has another past, one that caused the decline of the whale. This remarkable footage was shot in the early 1920s during one of the last whaling voyages ever to leave the port of New Bedford. Men from Massachusetts scoured the oceans in search of the declining whales and developed the techniques that were so successful in killing them. A right whale. Today, it's being rescued with the very techniques that were used to hunt whales in the past.
Roger. Okay, we'll be standing by on 1678. We're on our way out.
Okay, roger that. I'll be standing by.
Stormy Mayo, from the Center of Coastal Studies, uses a hook, a gaff, to try to disentangle the whale. With only 300 or so left in the world, every individual really counts. These men had no doubt that they had a God-given right to harpoon whales and use them for profit. They were just as sure that nothing they did would ever diminish the huge number of great whales. This wild chase was called a Nantucket sleigh ride. There was a large whaling community based on Nantucket Island.
You're gonna have to let him do something. Hang on, folks. Don't get yourself in the way. I'm trying to make you do this. The hope is he'll thrash right out of it.
Today, most people believe they have a responsibility to save these animals, especially the rarest of them all.
Left. You gotta get the other kick. Okay, I'm gonna play it out. You go left.
Got it over it now. Look.
Eventually, they detached this whale of a tangle, and the battered animal was set free.
So we think we just popped it. We think everything came off, maybe. But there's something really heavy.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, that's it.
Alright, so we're gonna start playing this. Just do your transfer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gotta get more.
North from Nantucket, home of the old whalers, to that strange-looking promontory, Cape Cod. Here, the few surviving right whales pass a rapidly changing coastline, with the famous Cape Cod lighthouse on the brink of disaster because of erosion. So they're moving it, both the light itself and the house that goes with it, away from the new cliff edge. It's another reminder of the nature of much of this coast, at the mercy of the elements. After the move, which involved slowly moving the buildings complete, an Osprey's eye view shows the light now safely well inland, until nature catches up. Cape Cod, at this time of year in March, can be a tough place. Whale research, in sight of the Provincetown Monument, can be cold, wet and rough. Not the best conditions for Marilyn Marks to continue her studies. Identifying right whales in these conditions is hard on the eyesight. This is where the right whales come to feed. So this is where Scott Krause and his team come to study them. Right whales may spend some 15 hours a day feeding and have a knack of finding the most dense patches of food. At this time of the year, the water is rich in plankton. Some areas contain up to 2 million organisms per cubic metre, and the most abundant prey are tiny shrimp-like creatures called copepods. It takes 4,000 of these to fill a teaspoon, and for a 50-ton whale to sustain its bulk, it's thought to consume around 4,000 pounds of plankton each day.
I just think that big guy's really cool. It's the neatest thing.
Underwater, it's like soup, copepod soup. And that's where the skimming whale likes to be. It's hardly ever been seen underwater for obvious reasons. The food is so thick. The massive mouth closes. The baleen around the mouth filters the food, and the tongue delivers it to the throat. This is such a productive area for studying whales that part of it, the Stellwagen Bank, is now a marine sanctuary. At various times of year, veritable armadas of great whales arrive, like these fin whales, the second largest after the blue whale. This one's got a mouthful of water and food, and it's the food supply that's crucial to this concentration of whales. Sand eels, or sand lance, form a basic food supply for all kinds of birds, fish, and humpback whales, which have a special way of getting them. These scenes are being watched by students who now use underwater cameras, mini submarines, and microphones to search the depths. Over the Stellwagen Bank, students kept track of whales moving north as part of Journey North.
I'm going to go fairly slow so you can see. Put a little bit down.
This is a project which links whale sightings over thousands of miles of coast, from the south, heading north. And the Osprey is watching too. This is how the humpback whales get their prey, such as sand eels. They round them up with bubbles and then gulp mouthfuls at the surface. It's something that human whale watchers can sometimes see most dramatically down at whale level. Our Osprey needs a rest. And where better than the Provincetown Monument? From up here, he can keep an eye on things. the harbour, and behind it, one of the whale-watching capitals of the world. Provincetown is a centre for whale research, but often the researchers go out on tourist trips to help show the public the wonderful world of whales. Whale watching has transformed the community at Provincetown. So it has as far afield as Hawaii, Japan, Norway and Ireland. But it's only at a few places that you can see the rare northern right whale like this. This kind of experience is growing rapidly all over the world: Spain, Brazil, Argentina, Antarctica and New Zealand. But this particular area probably attracts 11% of the US whale-watching public, now up to about 4 million a year. It's those bubbles again. No wonder they reckon there's more money to be made from whales alive than dead, when you can see this. On a building in Boston, a humpback whale leaps. Offshore, our right whale will swim on north up the coast of Massachusetts. And high over the city, the Osprey circles and then sets off past the skyscrapers to an emptier land. And an emptier sea. It may be emptier of people, fewer boats, fewer whale watchers, but the attraction to the many travellers is more life as the cold north warms up. Already the snow is nearly gone as the killer whales push on. Above them, the Osprey has finally arrived over the pine-clad shores of Maine, still flecked with snow. And below him is why he's come so far, a huge nest built up over generations. He displays to his mate. And then presents her with a fish. If he brings in a lot of fish and gives them up willingly, then he'll be a good provider. Smooth transfer of a fish leads to mating. And the nest is refurbished, soft materials collected, and will be placed on the top of the nest tower to complete this year's home, hopefully. But something's wrong. The nest site is on a private island, and every spring tour boats come by to see how the famous nest is getting on. The Ospreys are used to this, and usually they successfully raise a family. But not this year. The tourists had only been seeing one of the pair, and the feeling was that there had been an accident. What they couldn't see was this. Dead, and no one knew why. The other one stayed around, keeping watch across the bay. More whale watchers, and these are on a very special boat, claimed to be the biggest, the best and fastest. It gets you out to the whales as quickly as possible and is very commercially run, perhaps a sign of the times. If you don't see a whale, you get your money back, but you usually do. Even a right whale if you're very lucky. What does she make of us, I wonder? Meanwhile, the Osprey is partly back to its old routine. He often flies across from the island to a favourite fishing spot. It's a freshwater pond bordered by tall trees that make an excellent vantage point. Ospreys like a shake, or two, or more. On his way home, he passes Arcadia National Park, with the highest point on the whole Atlantic coast, at 1,530 feet. The authorities have been finding mercury poisoning in freshwater fish throughout Maine. In some cases, people have been warned not to eat fish, the same that ospreys catch. Sounds familiar? Remember DDT and the 50s. But the good news for our osprey is back on his island. A new nest, a new mate, even though his present may kill them both. After all, why did the previous mate die? And why don't right whales increase more quickly? They've travelled here, like the osprey, along some of the most polluted coastlines in North America. But these eggs should hatch. They're not thin-shelled. Hatching takes about 24 hours. Like the right whale, the osprey is top of the food chain. Nothing kills ospreys, nothing kills whales, except man, by pollution or whaling. One is a winner because it's adaptable, and some poisons were banned in the past. The other, the right whale, may be a loser. This family of ospreys will soon fly south, back towards Florida and further on into South America. They'll leave behind the cool coast of Maine, where lobster pots are still a hazard. To Wales. The northern right whales are here too, in the Bay of Fundy. Whether they've picked up pollutants on their long journey up from Florida, we don't know. Why some died with no visible signs of damage, we don't know. With only 300 or so left on Earth, is inbreeding the problem? Here's an attempt to find out. Chris Slay has a crossbow, not a harpoon. He's taking aim over there, not looking behind.
You whale, this is big. Big enough.
That's gonna be a picture for the wall, I'll tell you what.
Oh, what you got?
This is a whale orgy.
He's got a good feeling for him.
Lots of males after our female.
Humpback right here.
Multi-species orgy going on.
I'm hoping that other whale comes around this side. Water on him.
Success. By using a biopsy arrow, it's possible to get a sample of a whale's skin. And the DNA genetic information from that will reveal paternity and the degree of inbreeding that's going on. As females mate with several males at a time, they're trying to find out how successful any individual male is. This genetic fingerprinting should help identify specific fathers. The osprey is a winner, but can the right whale be stopped from becoming a loser? If not, it could turn out to be the only whale species we might lose in our lifetimes. Just in time, we saved the osprey and the web of life it shares with us. Just in time, we stopped killing every single last northern right whale. But were we too late?
Well, maybe. Our update shows that life can be a huge drag for one of these few remaining whales. Thousands of miles. Ruffian arrived in Florida and had to burn 27,000 calories each day towing that gear. That's gear fishing for food for us. Some 20 of them died in 2017, with about 450 left, including only 100 breeding females. The world mostly stopped whaling. Can this killing be stopped too? Let's really hope so.